So I've titled this presentation Youth Magic Building Partnerships with Schools, Local Game Stores, and the Magic Community. I've been working on this project for 6 months, about 6 months now officially, and it's kind of been a brainchild in the back of my mind for much, much longer than that. But I've been doing this for 6 months. I've had some success, and I want to share with you kind of what my model is that I've been following, that I think that there's something to it, and then also just to hopefully get feedback about what you guys think of it. So I think the main concept that I really want to drive home is that if you're going to pull off a youth magic club in a school, it has to be a team effort. My background is in teaching or working with educators and working in schools, and teachers are just so overworked, right? I think it's important to have the clubs located at the school, but they're going to need support. So it really has to be the community coming together, partnering with schools, local game stores, and then other members of the Magic community as well. Thank you. So my name is Sean Pottinger. I'm from Hawaii. The main island of Oahu is where this project is taking place. And I currently am networking 3 different youth magic clubs together and trying to run inter-school tournaments. There's another organization that has a youth magic club on the opposite side of the island from me, and I've been trying to network with them. And then I also have a YouTube and Facebook page where I've been kind of documenting my progress on this. So I'll put up the links to that at the end of the presentation. But I want to start off with just a little bit about myself. Can you scroll down? Or to the right. So how many of you guys remember what the Junior Super Series was? Okay, Junior Super Series was great. I got into Magic when I started playing super competitively around the time I was 12, and then I played in Junior Nationals from 14, 15, and 16. So 3 years of playing in Junior Nationals. And the fact that this existed, that there was an entire circuit dedicated to youth, right? I got to play against my peers. That was a big selling point for me when I was a kid. It was also a really big selling point for my parents, right? I traveled to my first junior national tournament, and I wasn't even qualified for nationals. I played in a last chance qualifier and grinded in. But thinking back on that experience now, I went up to my parents and I was like, hey, I want to spend all of the money that I have saved to fly to California to play in this tournament that I'm not qualified for, right? And it was definitely kind of a leap of faith on my parents' part, but the fact that, it was a youth circuit, they understood that this was something that kids my age were doing, it was very supportive, and the fact that they awarded scholarship money was a huge perk as well. So I played 3 years on the junior national circuit before I graduated out at 16, and then I've played in 7 pro tours, off and on. I've never had any real success, but my love for the game that started as a youth has carried through, and basically my entire adult life, I've had the goal either in the back of my mind or in the forefront of my mind, depending on what's going on in life, to always be trying to qualify for the pro tour. It's one of the perks of coming to Vegas, to play in the GP. Take another shot. But that's competitive Magic is what I love about the game. I love trying to play competitively, to see how I measure up. That's what I love about it. And I acknowledge that the Magic community is so much more than just competitive Magic, but that's kind of the role that I've kind of taken in it, and why I want to share that with the rest of with the next generation. So I work for a nonprofit right now that supports schools. It's called Pals in Places. But the PALS is the after-school component of what we're running. It stands for Place-Based After-School Literacy Support, and we run an after-school program, and two to three of the teachers that work with us through that are doing gaming clubs, right? One of them is specifically a Magic club, one is a gaming club where they've been playing Magic, and then one is like a coding club where they're designing games, and they don't play as much Magic, but they're still fascinated by it. So I started working at PALS a year ago, And then a couple months into me working there, the Pro Tour came to town. So every 2 years they have Pro Tour Honolulu, and I organized this field trip for the teachers that I worked with who were interested, the kids that were in those teachers' clubs who were interested in coming, and we got to have this really awesome experience at the Pro Tour. And this was my second time organizing a field trip to the Pro Tour. I did one 2 years prior as well, but this one kind of really sparked me wanting to take this youth project seriously. So that's kind of the genesis of the project. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so some of the reasons why I want to do this. I love this game. I think that I want to do everything that I can to see the game grow, and I think that it's our responsibility as players, right, to do what we can to see the game grow. So here we go. If you plan for 1 year, you plant rice. If you plan for 10 years, you plant trees. If your plan is for 100 years, you educate children, right? If we want to see the community grow, if we want to see the game last for another 25 years, then we need to do outreach to the students, right? That's one of the many reasons I love teaching. A secondary goal for why I wanted to do this is specific to my community in Hawaii. When they switched over to the PPTQ system in Hawaii, the competitive scene it died effectively. We have about 1/3 of the turnout for PPTQs as we used to have for PTQs, and like a lot of the guys that used to play in PTQs but won't show up to PPTQs, they're like, it's just too hard, right? The gauntlet is too rigorous. Like we don't feel like we have a real shot to play, right? So a lot of people in my community are just kind of checking out of competitive Magic, and because I love competitive Magic so much, it makes me sad that the competitive scene has died, and I want to see it regrow, and I think that starting with the kids is the way to do it, right? I started playing competitively when I was in middle school, high school, and I want to see these kids that are in middle school and high school that are passionate about playing competitively and give them the support that they need to kind of reach that goal. Though not all the kids want to play competitively. All right, so the format for my project here is that there's kind of 3 pillars of support for these youth Magic clubs: the schools, the local game stores, and Magic community members. So one more time. So the first pillar is the schools, right? Oftentimes these clubs will be nested within larger gaming clubs, and I think that that's really good because we want to have as much exposure. If you just have, we're only the Magic Club and we're only in this one room, right? You're not as approachable. If you structure it nested within a larger gaming club, if a kid is interested in video games or they're interested in tabletop games, then they'll show up to the club, they'll see people playing Magic, having a good time, start asking questions. That's how you get kids into the game, right? So you want to have it nested within a larger gaming club as often as possible. And I think it's really important to keep in mind that the reason that kids come to things like this is because they want to have a place to hang out with their friends, right? They want to show up and hang out and have a good time. And it's really important to remember that that's why we're doing this, right? We want to provide a space for them to be able to do that. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's all about forming partnerships and having a team, having a network to be able to pull something like this off. And I would not be able to do what I'm doing if it wasn't for the club advisors that are at the school. So these 3 gentlemen up here in this picture are the 3 club advisors at the 3 different schools that I've been working with. And they're teachers that are at the school, and they have these after-school clubs, right? They are the go-to person. Research has been shown that if a kid has a good relationship with an adult on campus and they feel like they can talk to them about, just life in general, that kid is much more likely to succeed and have resiliency to, overcome challenges that they face throughout high school. So having somebody at the school is a really important component. And also in terms of making sure that you're covering yourself logistically and in terms of liability and stuff like that, the teacher at the school is going to be most familiar with helping you to solve those things. However, oftentimes the teacher at the school doesn't know very much about Magic, right? They might be passionate about wanting to see their kids get into this great community, but they don't know anything about Magic. So they'll organize club meetings, they'll organize field trips, they'll get waiver forms signed and stuff like that, but they need somebody to help them engage the kids in the actual skills that you need to play Magic and engaging with the Magic community. So the club advisors are an important role, but they can't do it alone. This one is really important to me. Magic and gaming can become part of the student's school identity, right? When I played Magic in high school, I was a super closeted nerd. I qualified for my first Pro Tour, and I did not tell any of my friends that didn't play Magic that I qualified, right? I won a plane ticket to go to Prague, halfway around the world, and I just told my friends, yeah, I'm going to Prague. Right? I didn't tell them, hey, I qualified for this awesome tournament and I get to go play against these professional Magic players. And I was just really closeted about Magic as part of my school identity. And, I think one of the purposes of this project is to kind of get kids to realize that, if you love this game, you should talk about it at school. You should, try to share with as many people what you love about this game and why you love it so much. So that's another reason why having the clubs nested within schools is really important. Also, school pride, right? When these kids show up to tournaments and they get to play against kids from other schools, they want to represent their school, right? These two kids, they've been dominating the tournaments that I've been running. The kid on the left has come in first place in 2 of the tournaments and then second place in a third one, and the kid on the right won one and then came in second place in the other 2. So these two kids are like, they've become the gods of the youth tournaments that we've been running, and their classmates are really proud of them. They're getting a little arrogant right now, and their classmates are getting sick of it. But they're proud to see their classmates succeed, right? The kids from the other schools, they're like, oh man, we got to go beat Joe and Bodie, right? Because they're the guys to beat. So having that as part of your school identity, being able to have pride in your school, I think it's really important that we're connecting the Magic community into that, right? I hope that Magic can be as cool in schools as it is to be on the football team, right? It's a bit of a pipe dream, but that's the goal. Also, Magic is incredibly complex, right? Guiding somebody through their first game of Magic, it took me a long time to figure out how exactly to do that. I've tried and failed many times to teach people how to play, and it is a struggle. So towards the end of the presentation, I'm going to go through some of the best practices that I've come across. I would love to hear any ideas that you guys have in terms of teaching people how to play, but I think that having a kid teach another kid how to play with no guidance is not usually a formula for success, because if somebody asks to learn how to play and then they have a not so great experience in their first game, then they're probably not ever going to come back, right? So you want to create a culture with the students and then with your understanding as support for them to help students overcome that first obstacle, right? And then also, one of the buzzwords in the sphere of education right now is project-based learning. Does that ring a bell with anybody? Okay, so project-based learning is where you have the kids decide on a project, and then that project kind of drives the instructions. So the skills that the students need to learn are nested within their goals for the project. And it's, the ultimate pipe dream is that one day it's going to be part of the mainstream curriculum, right? You can have a whole Magic school, but right now I think doing project-based learning and project-based curriculum in the after-school setting is still incredibly enriching for the students. So whether their goal is to build an EDH deck or play in the standard Pauper tournaments or to become a judge, right? Whatever, or become a cosplayer, become an artist, write Magic lore, right? Whatever their goal within the Magic community is, they can make a project out of that, and then you can kind of help them along the way, and it's going to be rigorous and it's going to be enriching for So that's kind of the role that the schools play as the first pillar in supporting the youth magic clubs. All right, so local game stores. Ooh, it's a little cut off. Sorry. Ultimately, the local game stores, we're trying to integrate the kids into the local game store community, right? And usually, the kids that I see in the local game store community that aren't part of the clubs that I'm running, they're there because they have parents that play Magic, or they have parents that are really nerdy and go to comic book stores anyway, right? But I'm trying to open it up to the average kid at school. If you like nerdy things, right? If you're into that gaming culture, then we want to help you feel confident and comfortable in considering yourself a member of the local game store community, right? That's ultimately the goal. So the inter-school tournaments that I've been running with the 3 different schools, I always try to have them located at one of the local game stores in the community. Get the kids familiar with the space itself, right? Get the parents familiar with the space, right? They feel comfortable bringing their kids into the space. And then also, one of my projects for this summer is I'm trying to get the kids comfortable with going to the F&M tournaments, right? The non-youth tournaments that are being run at these local game stores. So that's kind of the ultimate goal, to provide that bridge or that stepping stone for them to enter into the community. So local game stores, that's the second pillar of the youth magic. All right, we can go to the next one. All right, and then members of the magic community is the third pillar. I kind of consider myself in this category because I'm trying to network all of these different people together, right? It's going to be a team effort. That's the theme I'm going to keep coming back to. It's got to be a team effort, because it would be impossible to do this as a single person. But like, the more I talk to people about this project, whether it's locally or through the internet, here we have people from all over the country. The more I talk to people about this project, the more that people want to see the youth community grow, right? People want to help, but a lot of the times they just don't know how, right? If you don't work in the field of education, approaching a school and being like, hey, I want to do something and help out, but I don't want to come off as a creep or a weirdo, right? There's lots of barriers in terms of making something like this happen. So what I try to do is to just talk to as many people as I can, try to find ways to integrate whatever people are excited about. So just a couple of examples. Can we scroll down? Yeah. So here, this picture on the left is a local card altar artist. Her name is Michelle Baker. She lives on the island. In her spare time, she does card altars, right? She is very active in the Commander community. Her son plays the game, and she, I just met her one day at the local game store, started talking about my project, and she was like, oh, I would love to support something like this. Handed me a stack of these full art basic lands that she altered. She was like, please use these as prize support for your tournaments.
Oh, amazing.
So she's been coming to as many of the tournaments that I've been running as she can, and she'll just set up her little station, do the card altars while the kids are playing. The kids that are really interested in art will approach her and talk to her and ask her questions. And then we organized this day where she came to the school and did a Learn to Do Card Altars Day with the kids. And this is one of the prettier ones. It's a Vulpine Goliath that's getting full-hearted right there. Another avenue of engagement for the Magic community is spell slinging. So whenever I have a tournament, it's at the local game store. If there's just people at the store that want to engage with the kids, I always have my standard pauper decks with me, and I tell the people, this is Vance here on the right, I just tell them, hey, if you have your own standard pauper deck, you can use it. If you want to use one of mine, you can use it, and you can play against the kids. If they beat you, I'll give the kid a pack, right? It's something for the kids to do in between rounds. The kids are excited to play against the adults because, it's a challenge. I don't give away that many packs. I tell the adults, don't go easy on them. But it's opportunities to learn. It's kind of like a friendly game. You get to learn. The kids get to learn a little bit, and then I try to hook up the spell slingers that stick around for a long time with some packs at the end of the day. So spell slinging is a great way for community engagement. That's actually probably the easiest one. People say, hey, I want to help you out with your youth tournaments. I say, show up to the tournament, bring a standard pauper deck, and you can just engage with the kids that way. This down here, this guy in the middle, Alika, he organizes kind of his own gathering. About once a month, he has everyone come over to his house. He gets like between 20 and 30 people to come to his house for his monthly gatherings, and he wants to be supportive of the tournament. So he donated these play mats. He'll show up to the tournaments, buy the kids sodas and stuff like that, right? Like just wanting to be warm and welcoming to the kids when they come into the Magic community. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. Another example up here. This is Jason and Keith. They are too old to play in the youth tournaments. I set the brackets for the youth tournaments. If you're enrolled in K through 12, then you're eligible. So these guys are 19. They unfortunately just graduated from high school the year before I started doing this. But they wanted to come to the youth tournaments anyway to hang out with their friends. And so I was like, hey, you guys know the rules pretty well. If you just want to kind of float and be unofficial judges, help me out that way. I gave them some packs at the end of the day. They had a good time. And they just wanted to engage with the kids. And then down here, this is a picture from the field trip. The kids got to talk to Dave Humphreys and Ian Duke from R&D. And I think field trips are a good way to kind of spark a lot of interest right away, right? Bringing them to a Grand Prix or whatever is in your community that's accessible. I think that's a really great opportunity. All right, so 3 pillars were schools, right? LGS and Magic community members. So it's really a team effort, and I see my role as just trying to coordinate all of that and make it happen. I want to share some best practices that I've come up with. I believe they're best practices from as far as I know, and I'm certain that they can get better. So in terms of having a kid play their first game of Magic, as I said, that's a really crucial point. So you want to keep it simple. Are you guys familiar with these free starter decks? If you ask the LGS to give them to you, they can order them for free, and the LGSs in Hawaii have just been donating them to me as I need them.
There's also, you can contact Sarah Mox directly. She's our community judge manager, and she can also, so those 2 boxes sitting there were sent to my home. They are all starter decks because we are running a Learn to Play event on Sunday.
Awesome.
Home. So she'll also help you out with that.
Yeah, so sometimes there are 30-card starter decks. Sometimes they come as, this has 2 30 packs in it, and it's 2 colors. But either way, like the cards in those are simple, right? You don't want to throw too much complexity at them. Get them started with that. I try to get the kids shuffled up and playing as fast as possible. One of the worst things, I fell into this trap many times through my years of trying to figure out how to best do this. You don't want to talk at the kids for 15 minutes before they learn how to play. You want to do like 3 minutes of explanation and then get them started playing right away. Get them engaged. So what I do is I go over, this is a land, this is a creature, this is power and toughness, I'll explain combat later, this is an instant, this is a sorcery, let's shuffle up, right? I always try to have them play their first couple games open hand, right, so that you can kind of help walk them through it. And if possible, I try to have them play their first game with a partner, right? Especially if they're going to be playing against me or some other adult. It's really intimidating to play your first game against, an adult. But if they have a partner, somebody that's on their team, whether it's another adult or another student who's been playing the game longer, having somebody to talk through decisions with, right? You don't feel as stupid asking your partner questions as you do your opponent. I try to give them a partner, and then if they're playing 2-on-1 or 3-on-1, then they're for sure going to win their first game, right? I'm kind of an asshole, and I don't let my kids win unless they earn it. but it's really important that they win their first game and that they feel like they've accomplished something. So since I don't like taking it easy on them, if there's 2 or 3 of them playing against me, I don't have to take it easy on them. I can still model good Magic playing practices while they're beating up on me. And then cross-school mentorship. The high school that I've been partnering with and the middle school that I've been partnering with are right down the road from each other. So I've been trying to set up opportunities for the high schoolers to go down to the middle school, do learn to play days, deck building days, right? This picture right here is these 3 kids are in middle school and they teamed up against 2 of the high schoolers. And everyone was just playing these little 30-card starter decks and they had a really good time. I love this picture because they spent like 6 or 7 minutes trying to figure out what to do on this board state. And they're like, no, this is the most important thing. No, that's the most important thing, right? And you have that dialogue that they're engaging with. And that's how you build community. You have them talk with each other. Can we go to the next one? All right. So the tournaments that I've been running have been standard pauper. And the number one reason for that is card accessibility. The neighborhood that I'm working in is a low-income neighborhood. It's one of the poorest neighborhoods on the island. And quite frankly, a lot of the kids in the community are like, we can't become competitive Magic players because you know we're from Nanakuli. We don't have any money. What are we supposed to do to compete? And I tell them, like, you don't need to have a ton of money to be a successful card player, right? If we're going to start you with something simple, with standard pauper. The most expensive decks in standard pauper are like $5, and then we're going to work you up from there. So it's super accessible. Somebody can come in, learn to play. You know, they have 3 or 4 games under their belt with the starter decks, and then you're like, okay, now we're going to show you standard pauper. And I literally just give them boxes and boxes of commons, and they can just build their deck right there. So accessibility is the key. The last big tournament that I ran before the school year ended was a 2-headed giant tournament, and a lot of the kids loved it, right? As I mentioned, having that partner to be able to collaborate with is really, really powerful. And these 2 boys are from the middle school, and they made the finals of this tournament, and it was their first time making it to the elimination rounds. And they had both been trying so hard to make it in, and then when they finally teamed up, they made it, and it was that aha moment. We beat the high school kids, and we did it together. So 2-headed giant. I think for next school year, I'm going to be alternating 1 month standard pauper individual, the next month 2-headed giant. Something else that I've been doing is draft boxes. So I think limited is one of the best ways to teach kids the bread and butter, the skills of the game in terms of, evaluating cards, figuring out combat, building decks and stuff like that. So, but limited is expensive, right? I don't want the kids to have to pay $10 to do a draft. So what I did is I built a draft box. It's just 5 of each common from Amoket. It's all sleeved up. There's some sleeved up lands in there. And then we just shuffle it up and make packs out of it to play limited out of. And it's been, the kids have learned a lot from doing that, whether it's playing sealed or playing drafts or Winston draft, one-on-one drafts. Like, those are just really good exercises to get the kids familiar with the skills that they need. And ultimately, to get them to feel comfortable to show up to a F&M draft, right, with adults. The kids love playing Commander. As I said before, the number one reason the kids come to the tournaments is because they want to hang out with their friends, and Commander is like the number one format for doing that. However, playing your kid collection, my Commander deck costs $20 versus somebody whose Commander deck costs hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, that's no fun. So we've been trying out kind of our house rules restriction on rarity. So right now we're doing 3 mythics and 10 rares in your Commander deck, and they can be any mythics or rares. But then that way it kind of levels the playing field for the kids that don't have as big collections, and it's still a fascinating, fun, deep format that the kids are engaging in. And then we can go to the next slide. coverage. I think we can do one more. All right, here we go. So I've been trying to do coverage through my Facebook page and my YouTube channel to just start generating content. As far as I know, there isn't really anyone making content on Standard Pauper yet, so I've been trying to input the deck lists from the tournaments just to give the kids kind of reference points. So this deck won our February tournament, right? It's just mono blue Eldrazi cards. Almost all the cards are from Battle for Zendikar, right? If you just looked at the card list from Battle for Zendikar and said, I want to play blue, you would be halfway to making this deck, right? Rune Processor is an MVP in this format, by the way. It's huge. So I've been putting these decks on MTG Goldfish and then getting links to them so that the kids can have access to them. We can do one more. All right. And this is just another example. This is Black Red Madness. This actually won 2 of the tournaments that we ran. Renegade Freighter is obviously broken in the format. But, you know, this deck, the cost of it is like $2, right? It costs nothing. But it's this deck is competitive, right? This deck was crushing the tournaments. It won 2 in a row. Oh, one other comment about Standard Pauper. We've been playing with downshifted rarities, so there are a couple of uncommons that are legal because they were printed as commons before. So like Grasp of Darkness and Lightning Axe and stuff like that is legal in the format. So like if a kid is playing Grasp of Darkness and Murder in their deck, then their deck gets to be maybe $5 in cost, but it's still just a super accessible format. All right, go to the next one. Okay, oh, and one more thing on coverage. I've been trying to get post-tournament interviews with the kids. Okay. So if you check out my Facebook page and or YouTube channel, I've got some of them have been posted, and you know, just have 2 or 3 questions that I ask the kids at the end of each tournament. Right? Did you have fun? What did you learn today? Not all of the post-tournament interviews are you know, that great, but there are always a couple gems each time that I do it, and it's totally worth it. So this one is on my YouTube page. I won't play it for you now, but basically the story behind this one is that these 2 kids showed up to the tournament. One of them, this was the 2-headed giant tournament, one of them, their partner didn't show, and the other one showed up without a partner. So they ended up just getting paired together that day, and they ended up having a really good time, right? These kids never really talked to each other outside of this tournament, but hey, you know, they showed up. They made friends, they worked together, and they learned something together, and that's captured in this interview. So one last thing about prize structure. I think it took me a while. It was a process for me to learn this, but I try to have the prize structure reward process as well as results. The second tournament that I ran, I got so much support from the club advisors. The club advisors have been donating, you know, they'll throw in like $20 each for the prize pool or whatever, so that we can keep the entry fee low for the kids. We charge the kids $1 to enter the tournament, and then the prizes are just all donated. So I've been donating prizes, the club advisors, and then the store throws in promos usually. But the second tournament, there was just so much support that we ended up giving first place like $40 worth of product for, you know, winning a $1 entry fee tournament, and that kind of felt weird to me. So I've cut back on the prize, keeping it top heavy. I still want first place to be getting enough packs that the kids see it and they're like, I want to win the tournament, right? You give them something to strive towards, but not something that teaches them the lesson of, hey, if I keep doing this, I'm going to get a ton of stuff for not paying anything. I don't think that's a good life lesson to teach them. So still reward results, but ultimately reward the process as well. So we have everyone gets either a pack or a promo just for entering the tournament. And then what I've been doing is telling the kids, if you write a tournament report after the tournament, you'll get extra packs. If you do an interview after the tournament, you'll get extra packs. If you do a deck tech after the tournament, you'll get extra packs, right? So it's rewarding the process as well as the results. This is Eden. He's in 4th grade. His dad plays Magic at the shop, and he showed up to our first tournament. the next youngest kid was in like 8th grade. So all of these like middle school, high school kids were looking at him, and he tore through everyone in that tournament. He came in 2nd place in that tournament, and the high school kids were just blown away by how good this kid was. And he walked away with a handful of packs and was super stoked about it. All right, we can go to the next one. All right, so wrapping up, I think that it's up to members of the Magic community to make this grow, and whatever your role within the Magic community is, whether you're a judge, whether you're connected to a local game store, whether you're an educator, right? You probably know enough people in the community that if you networked together, if you made a team and you guys figured out this is our goal, this is what we want to do, these are the challenges that we need to overcome. I definitely think that it's possible to get this going outside of Hawaii. So I think one of the problems with the JSS and why they ultimately discontinued it was because it was kind of a top-down model, right? Wizards was just fronting a bunch of scholarship money to run these tournaments, and there were a ton of opportunities for abuse in that because it was kind of a top-down. But if we grow the community from the bottom up, I believe that something similar to what the JSS was can reemerge, or at the very least we can kind of create those stepping stones for the younger kids to engage in the adult Magic community. So that's my dream, that's my goal. I'm working towards it as best as I can, and I would love to connect with anyone else who has similar goals. I've talked to a handful of other people who are doing similar things, and it seems like their model is pretty similar to the model that I've come to. So it works. You need a team. You have to put in the work, but it's definitely worth it, in my opinion. So I'm on social media. On Facebook, MTG 808 Junior. That's the Facebook page where I've kind of been putting the events, the results, the pictures and stuff. And then my YouTube channel, MTG 808 Junior, is a little more reflecting, right? Like me reflecting on the process and just sharing what I'm learning along the way. But if this is something that interests you, please check me out on social media, and I would love to stay in communication with anyone who wants to continue to kind of grow this. So that's all that I have. I will be here if you guys want to ask any questions. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. So thank you for coming.
Hey, people showed up. Hi, guys.
Yeah. Oh, okay. What was your name?
That's Mike.
Mike. Awesome.
So, because I'm a high school teacher, I've sort of done these little things in class, but moved cities and so bounced in and out of schools. So now that I'm recruited, I want to get something like this up. So I will absolutely contact you.
Yeah. You know where to find me.
I know where to find you.
Cool. Thank you.
This is like
Yeah, just off hours, something fun.
It was really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.